Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big tournament conclusions going down last night, especially the Red Bull homeguns. Cloud9 make the finals again, and yet again, they end up falling down short. Tier 1, this new roster which is being formed out there in Korea, very exciting team indeed. They are making some serious strides so far here in the VALORANT world in 2024. What's going on with Cloud9? How come they make it all the way again and still fall short despite looking so good again at these Red Bull homeguns tournaments? Loads of other drama on the day as well. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. G2, of course, they failed to take down Cloud9 this tournament, but that's certainly not true for every single team at the tournament. Starting here, by the way, with Mixwell. So, he started a new esports team, his own esports team. Now, this is always a very cool story when this happens. There's actually a relatively, well, some players have done this in history. Obviously, we have the likes of Gataga, Nadeshot, among some others, former pro players that have gone on to start legendary organizations in, of course, Gentlemates and 100 Thieves, respectively. There are other owners as well that used to be players, and it's always notable, I would say, when it happens. But Mixwell started Otokar Esports, and look, we have other, like David Beckham got involved in Guild Esports. I think Usain Bolt has Wild Esports, and there's other things like that going on. But I always feel like when it's an actual former pro, they tend to understand the ecosystem a bit better, and they maybe have a chance to make things work. Now, it's always challenging because esports teams basically just burn money. But when you are Mixwell, you've got a big fan base, it's possible that he's going to have some serious backing and sponsors on board so they can actually finance what they want to achieve for some time. I guess there's a question, is he going to come into VALORANT? What's that going to look like? Does it make sense? Because we know that there's been lots of criticism from Tier 2 and even Tier 1, Tier 3, whatever. People, members, community members, players, fans, coaches, etc. on the state of Tier 2 and why it's not particularly functional, why there's so many teams departing Tier 2, and all these other problems in the game. Effectively, the transition, the move up from Tier 3 to Tier 2 to Tier 1, whatever, is not really working right now. And for a lot of the teams, it doesn't make so much financial sense to fund a Tier 2 team, because if they get to Tier 1, yes, there are benefits for sure to getting to partnership, but the chances are relatively slim that they win Ascension, and even if they do, there are other hurdles to be considered as well. So, excited to see what the future holds for Mixwell's new organization. Of course, you know, there's other big creators. People are saying, hey, Tarek, like, you know, you should crack on, make a team yourself. But I'm sure that he's sitting relatively pretty on Sentinels for now. Speaking of Sen, Zelsis was talking about this. I still think about what a V1 made franchising. Wow, what a time, right, when franchising was coming into play. We had no idea who was making it, who was going to get in, who wasn't. Of course, people expected Optic to get in, but yeah, in the end, that never exactly went to plan. And what if you didn't get banned from Kara hearing the replies? But let's talk about some of the tournaments that have been going down. So this was a pretty big deal. Challengers League 2024 North America Group Stage Elimination Stage 3 Turtle Troop versus QOR. That's the team of Weeded, Ada, B-Dog, Joar, and Chaotic now, and obviously wishing all those guys the best. But no, QOR, they get the job done. Nerve and those guys in a 3-mapper. They won the Abyss Turtle Troop. They then lost the Pearl. Then on the split, it was 13-11. So another classic banger game. Turtle Troop would be gutted about this, though, right? Because 11-11 to lose the final 2 after making a big comeback, that is always a bit of a dagger. This is the way that it stands. So these are the teams that have qualified. Winthrop University, TSM, they made it through. Of course, notably, Moist Chubba5 failed to make it through. YFP Funhabbers did. And then in Group C, these are the results. But in fact, QOR nor Turtle Troop, neither of them made it. It was the Rankers team, which is Poppin, Inspire, so Baby J, effectively, and those guys. And they ended up playing the team of Hoyen's team, basically. And then eventually that team went to drop down and beat Nerve's team and Logan's team, and they qualified as well. So definitely coming into that group, I would have seen a different outcome there. And then we have Group D coming up today, basically, to determine the final couple of teams. So yeah, some big names already bowing out of the Challengers group stages just before the playoffs, and then the playoffs, of course, coming up at the end of the month to see the best team in Challengers right now. And of course, that's a big deal going into the new season. $10,000 on the line for the team that wins the entire thing. Quickly on the VALORANT Asia Invitational, this is how that presently looks. So Destination Gaming, they took a 2-1 against RRQ yesterday to follow up their win against Edward Gaming to advance through to a 2-0 start to the bracket. So they're already through. The big deal, though, are the other games going down. So Trace Esports just took down Billy Gaming 2-1, and you know, big job there from Trace Esports. The Chinese scene continues to get very exciting. I think think more and more so after the World Championship this year. And the final game, the crucial game, right? Because DRX, Detonation Gaming, they are through. RRQ are at 1-1. Paper Rex are potentially about to be at 1-1 before they then play some further games to decide what happens to the playoffs, right? Because, yeah, it's a Swiss system type situation. Once these games have happened, the 1-1 teams will then play off against each other for the dub. But one of Paper Rex and Edward Gaming are going to go home at 0-2, and that's going to happen based on this series. So it's just getting underway as I'm recording this. Paper Rex currently up 9-6 on the game 1 here. So, yeah, what about that? We're getting the full Paper Rex Edward Gaming rosters right about now on VALORANT Esports China, playing it's typical Twitch, in it with this advert strategy. Try and log in, but I'll talk for another 10 seconds so we can see a little bit of the action here behind the scenes. Just a great matchup. Like, obviously at any time, but certainly true in the off-season to see these guys play with their full rosters as well, because we know that, of course, it's not always been the case for some teams in a LAN environment. Like, this is a proper tournament. This is for real. I think Paper Rex have a bit to prove as well. So do Edward, to be fair. Like, if Edward bow out 0-2, it doesn't really paint a great picture for their success. We know that in general in esports, winning at championships after being the world champions seems to be like the most challenging thing in the world. Like, after you've become the world champions, everyone's going harder than you are generally, and it can be so difficult to maintain that, even just going tournament to tournament, let alone winning champs and coming back and doing it again the next year. So, yeah, it would have something to prove, obviously, but they are all world champions now. That is not true for Paper Rex, and they got a lot of criticism last year, and understandably so. We'll see if this year is going to be a different story. But right now, Paper Rex are up 10-6 on the split, and of course, it's the defensive side Paper Rex. You'd expect them to hold on to this one, but it's Paper Rex Edward Gaming. You cannot say anything is for sure. But yesterday, the big conclusion that we did finally get was in the Red Bull Homegrounds tournament between Cloud9 and eventually T1. T1 did play for esports to get to the grand finals. They won that series, and then again, Cloud9 in the finals. As in this one, Ye was there. We saw this over the last couple of years, playing various teams, Fnatic among others, at these tournaments. Like last year's one was in Manchester, I'm pretty sure, maybe the year before's, and they love coming second to these tournaments. They look so good, Cloud9, until it really matters. That's the funny thing about C9, is that they can fry when there's nothing on the line, and when there is something on the line, either a tournament win or an actual VCT game, things do just seem to be a bit different for whatever reason. This was Stacks, by the way, with a banger clutch. Here we are on the final map of the series. It was 2-1 to T1 at this point, trying to close out here on the Haven, and Vic and Rossy are combining to get them off the bomb. Stacks then decides after the smoke fades, gets one, nails the second shot onto Rossy, gets the half defuse, and that's a 9-4 advantage, which they would not go on to squander, right? So it's a three-peat for Cloud9, but it's a three-peat to second places, and it's T1 they get the dub. I've been talking about this T1 team. I don't want to say I'm a ball knower, but look, ever since this T1 team was formed, I was very excited about their prospects, and I think they've shown already they can be an absolute force. I mean, we know what T1 are like in League, for example, right? That Korean team with Faker, legendary. They want to replicate that success again in VALORANT. They've had various teams in VALORANT over the last few years, none of which have really delivered what they were looking for in the longer term. Now they're full Korean again. Rossy, of course, ends up back on Cloud9, and he's done a great job over at C9. But this roster with Meteor, that acquisition, I think could be critical for them. Getting him off Gen.G in the way that they did, of course, bringing in Stacks and Buzz as well, other legends of the Korean scene over the last few years, and then Sylvan and Itsu just to keep improving series on series. And FUT Esports put up a fight. We know these guys are very good, so it was competitive. But game one was a 13-5 on the bind. They then got crushed on the Pearl on their pick as well. So it's early days. That's why these tournaments, you've got to take them with a pinch of salt, just because you're not expecting a top team to get 13-3'd on their pick in the actual regular season at a big tournament, right? Just goes to show that the teams aren't as well prepared as they could otherwise be. They're still learning a lot about their rosters, and they got 13-3 slammed. But when it mattered, 13-10, Ascent, Decider, Buzz, Sylvan, the other guys delivering a great performance. So they get over the line, and then they played Cloud9 in the finals, and honestly, this was pretty crushing. Buzz 81 in 54, Sylvan and Stacks delivering 2, and it's like, look, Meteor didn't even have the greatest performance by the numbers, but that's not what matters. He's a crucial part of that outfit right now. Rossy has done such a good job. Very, very impressed by him. He had a good series again, but it still wasn't enough. Oxy couldn't quite deliver, and they got kind of blown away, really. 13-10 on the Abyss, 13-8 the other way back on the Pearl, so it was super competitive, and of course T1 lose the Pearl again, but it's like, if it's not Pearl, they're winning the map. 13-8 on Binds, and then of course we saw the Haven result as well, that 13-6, helped in large part by Stacks with some monster moments and Buzz on the Neon. So yeah, phenomenal series, and this makes things very, very exciting for the new season, right? Because as Stacks says, off-season has ended, GG's well played, beat Cloud9 3-1, obviously they're learning a lot. As he says, I believe we've got a lot more to learn, we can definitely get better, and the fact that they've taken advantage, I would say, T1, of some chaos in their region to bring on Stacks now as the IGL, to get Meteor in over from Gen.G and take these steps that they have done. Very, very impressive stuff indeed. So yes, in Berlin, your Red Bull homeground champions are T1 over Cloud9 in the grand finals. Rossy was like, look, I gotta work harder, I gotta be a better leader, I failed my guys today, they're all incredible players, and Rossy's got a lot to learn, I'm sure, as well. Look, he's a phenomenal player, Rossy, now, and he's in-game leading, but you see with in-game leaders, often it goes one or two ways. Rossy shouldn't really be top fragging. I think that's kind of the key takeaway here, is that sometimes IGLs, they IGL and they end up putting themselves in the best spots, and that can occasionally work, but it tends to be the case that the best teams have talented in-game leaders that can shoot straight, and sometimes will take advantage of that as well. But they obviously always have to position their teammates for the most possible success, because if they don't, then it's a team game at the end of the day. So lots of Rossy to learn too, but I've been very impressed with him as a player, certainly since he's come back to North America, and well, we'll see how the rest of the season goes for him. But as people are saying, wow, like, people talked about Cloud9 being good, and they are, and look, Cloud9 against EG and Sen and NRG the other week at the Sin City Classic weren't all that good. So it's tough to say how good T1 exactly are, but the way that they performed, the fact that it was pretty much only Pearl that caused them any hiccups, everything else was sunshine and rainbows, it was, yeah, very impressive indeed. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.